As the sun was beginning to rise, a single mayor's parrot came waddling down to the water's edge to drink. These are beautiful little birds. They're normally very gregarious. We normally see them in small flocks. Not long after it started drinking, it got very rudely displaced by a blacksmith lapwing. These little birds are little lords of the pans. They defend their territories around these pans very aggressively. They don't hesitate to bombard any intruders, fish eagles, cranes, anything that happens to wander into their little patch. They'll chase off very noisily. In the grasslands just beyond the pan, 2 wattled cranes and a whole flock of spur-wing geese were feeding. The cranes and the geese were feeding on a very specific seed type today. They were all very delicately combing seeds off the tops of a particular type of grass. These wattled cranes are statuesque birds. They move so gracefully, often in tandem. This is obviously a breeding pair. Wattled cranes are such stately, magnificent birds. They're highly endangered, and the Delta is one of the last viable breeding grounds left for these birds. Only a week ago was lush, thick grass has very quickly turned brown and is dying down. There's a distinct chill in the air in the evenings and mornings, and autumn's beginning to set in.
As the sun rises, we look at the water and some of the life it supports. Whirligig beetles race madly over the surface of a backwater. Their eyes adapted so they can see simultaneously above and below the water's surface. Perched above the whirligigs, a damselfly, while nearby, a close relative, a dragonfly. Both these species' lives revolve around water. They feed, breed, and live in and around water. From the very small to the very large, this hippopotamus surfaces to breathe. To the hippo, water means home as well as life.
It was a lovely morning, and a lot of the small sandpipers were getting down to the water's edge. The reef that we decided to dive this morning was a place called Kev's Ledge. And it's a very big, extensive reef with one section that's very prominent and very interesting, with all the ledges and overhangs that one finds here. You look at the coral life and the reef structure itself, lots of nice anemones, lots of hard and soft corals here, and loads of little crevices where a lot of the goldies hole up, and this reef provides perfect sanctuary for these little guys. And this is on the inside of Kev's ledge, just encrusted with big mats of soft corals on the top, beautiful fish life. And right towards the end I found this very small anemone with a whole family of the 2-bar clownfish. Conditions were perfect. So another nice dive here in Ponta Malangan.
Six species of hornbill are found at Gengrajan National Park. This is the nest of a brown hornbill. The male brown hornbill seemed to be passing some large dark berries, probably of the fig family, into the female. And you can now see that the inside of the hole has been narrowed to a slit just big enough for his beak to pass in. The female is sealed inside with the chicks, and they are entirely dependent on the male to feed them. This hole is narrowed by the hornbills using a mixture of mud and droppings, and the function is to prevent predators from getting in. As the chicks develop, they require more protein than fruit can provide, so the male begins to bring small animals. Hornbills take several years to reach sexual maturity, and in some species, immature birds, presumably the previous year's offspring, will assist in feeding this year's young.